The First Coast is booming from a development standpoint, but all that new construction creates a kind of nostalgia for a different era, one clearly reflected in the architectural salvage sanctuary that is Eco Relics. And I'm joined now by Annie Murphy, who, along with her husband Michael, owns the store, celebrating its 10th anniversary this year.
Yes,
Congrats.
yes, we're very excited.
So, how did you get into the salvaging business in the first place? Were you sort of a collector, an antiquer? How did you begin?
It was one of those happy accidents midlife, I guess. So my husband was very into architecture, and I am a green warrior. So we combined the two and came out with Eco Relics.
And when did you realize that that was even like a possibility? I feel like the people talk about unbuilding as a trend, and maybe you can explain what that is, and then how you realized that that was actually a business model.
So I don't think we realized it was a business model until it actually started working. I think we were a little trepidatious about the whole green and coming into Florida, and but in the end, we made it work. And when you're talking about the deconstructs,
Yeah.
so deconstructs are a big way that we get a lot of our materials. So we go into houses, we pull out floors, doors, whatever we think we can get out clean and resell.
And so, is that primarily from older homes as opposed to newer homes?
It can be from any home.
Okay.
Anything that we think that we can resell, we will gladly accept.
So, for people who haven't been to Eco Relics, describe it a little bit in terms of its setup, its contents, what's all there.
So we have a 50,000 square foot warehouse that is full.
Which is itself a historic building.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was built in 1927. It is called the Baker and Holmes Building. So they were kind of like the Sears and Roebuck of the South
Oh.
back in the 1920s.
And it is jam packed
It is jam packed, and then we have an acre and a half outside as well.
for
So,
kind of things that can endure the
yeah,
weather.
garden statuary, bricks, pavers, things like that.
So, when you describe your inventory to people, what do you typically tell them is there?
Everything. We have a little bit of everything because I think everything can be saved mostly.
Yeah.
So very few things should be thrown away.
It reminds me a little bit of Shamblin's Book Mine in terms of being one of those places you can wander and it just kind of sucks you in the more
Yes.
you wander. But there is all kinds of ephemera there. I mean, there's building materials, right? You
Yes.
can take, there's windows that can be repurposed, there's wood, there's pavers, but there's also strange little oddities.
Yes, we collect little oddities, and that's mainly because we buy materials from locals. So a lot of the stuff that we get is from locals, and everybody has treasures, and they end up in Eco Relics.
So, who are your customers?
Everybody. So we, I think, have the DIYers that come in that are looking for things to repurpose or things to make things out of, which is why we sell our wood and our live edge slabs. I think we have people that, are actively trying to be green. And I think we also have people who are just looking for a cheaper way of modernizing something or renovating something.
And so, what is your interaction like with the customers when they come in? Are you sort of hands off? Do you get involved with their projects, help them find their treasures?
I think it's a little bit of both, but we do train our employees to kind of be project therapists because when you reuse something, sometimes you do have to think a little bit out of the box. Sometimes it does get your mind moving a little bit more because you kind of have to, think, how can I get this in? How can I use it? And so our employees are great at that.
Hey, can you give an example of when you were able to be a therapist in a situation like that? How does that apply?
So a lot of times people, they'll go into a new, they're trying to renovate something, let's say, and they come across this beautiful door in Eco Relics. And usually the doors that come into Eco Relics typically don't have frames. So it's a lot of trying to make people realize that, you can still make a frame and use this beautiful door. You can increase the size of your door size a little bit, or you can, decrease it too, just by the size of your jamb.
But you have to have those conversations, I guess, so people understand, first of all, what they're getting into.
Yes.
And they're not just leaving with the door and no plan.
Right.
Yeah. What is the most unusual item that has come through your transom or through your door?
Oh boy, we've had a lot of unusual items. We've actually had a prison toilet and shower come in.
Wow.
And that's when I kind of realized that everything sells.
'Cause
Somebody wants everything.
did someone buy that?
Yes.
Wow. I'm interested to know what their design aesthetic is like. So when you are celebrating 10 years, I mean, that's a success story. Um, and congrats on that.
Thank you.
You are having a celebration this
Yes.
weekend?
Yes, on Sunday.
Okay.
Yes.
What all is involved?
So we do quarterly charity events usually, and so this one happens to coincide with our birthday. So we're doing we have a band, the Instigators. We're going to have a food truck, Moore's Barbecue food truck, and we're going to have beer from Myrtle Avenue Brewing Company. And it'll just be a celebration, and our sales that day will be donated to the Apex Theater Group.
That's terrific. And how do you come by your items? Do you personally go out and look for things? Are you on construction sites digging through
Not
debris dumpsters?
I think at the very beginning we were doing that, but now pretty much things are coming to us.
Okay.
So we get a lot of emails a week with people looking to sell us things. We probably get 100, something like that. So the majority of our stuff is local.
And so people can contact you, I guess, through your website. But
Yes.
what does that transaction look like? How do you evaluate? What are you looking for?
So usually we're looking for things that are not so damaged that they can't be reused again. So our emails, we ask people to send pictures if they have pictures of the items. Give us if they have the history of the item. That's always helpful because we love to carry that history when we sell it. And then we bargain before you get to us. And so when you get to us, you have a choice of either store credit or cash.
Okay. And but it's not consignment. I mean,
No.
the transaction is done once it's there.
Yeah, we have too many things to try and keep track of consignment.
You know-
We don't even do an inventory, so
Oh, really? Interesting. I
We
guess
have-
that would be impossible.
yeah, it would probably bankrupt me, probably.
But so if somebody does have an item, then it's not too damaged. Do you just do people drop things off? Do you take drop offs?
Not generally. We prefer to get a look at the item first so that we are not throwing away things.
So, but these are not just like architectural, like moldings and, kind of old stuff. There's new stuff too.
Yeah, there's new doors we have. There's, I'm trying to think of other new things we have, but we do have newer things. A lot of our stuff is a little bit used and older.
Does it ever get overwhelming? There's obviously a lot of debris, construction waste, and nowhere more so than probably the First Coast, right?
Mhm,
There's
yes.
just so much construction happening.
Yes, yes.
And I would guess there's more out there than you could
There
take or process.
There is a lot more out there than we can take, and sometimes it's sad when we have to say no. But at the end of the day, we are a business, so we have to. While we have a green foot, we still have to also have a foot forward where we are making money and paying my employees.
And are you unique in Jacksonville, this kind of store? And are there other, places like you around the country that you kind of know or work with or at least able to discuss, your work with?
Yeah, there's a not a lot of us, but there is architectural salvage stores in probably almost every city in America. You just have to search them out.
But maybe not as varied as yours, though?
Maybe not as varied because we do have a green bent to us. So our green bent allows us to take a lot more things. So we're not so focused on, the stuff from that's really old, from like 1900s. We'll take the stuff from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. Any setbacks that you guys have had in these 10 years that has been particularly difficult?
I think at first, coming into Jacksonville as a green business was difficult. It took a little bit for people to get to know us and kind of figure out what we were about. But then once we hit our stride, I think we're doing well, and now we're part of the rail yard district downtown. So I think it's things are moving forward.
That area, what do you call that neighborhood? Is that like Lackawanna or
Well, we call it the rail yard district.
Rail Yard District?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a 4.5 square mile group of businesses that are trying to make change to that particular neighborhood.
And a lot of them in historic buildings like
Yes,
yours.
and we're all trying to figure out how we can reuse a building, how to repurpose a building.
Well, Annie Murphy, congrats on 10 years. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.